Hey, man. Have you ever heard of Satoshi Nakamoto?
Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What did he do?
No, am I thinking Miyamoto? Which is literally like...
Hello, Moto?
I was going to say, this is going to sound real... There's no way for that to sound right. Am I thinking of Miyamoto? Say it again, Satoshi
Nakamoto.
Nakamoto, okay.
Here, we'll try this. Have you ever heard of blockchain?
Blockchain?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that a game where you, like on your phone? That's what the original was. You had Snake and Blockchain, right? That's what we played?
No.
This is my favorite part of the episode, by the way, where I just go, word associations. Go ahead.
What about Bitcoin? You ever heard of Bitcoin?
Is this your bad place where I just do this all the time? Where I just go, Bitcoin, yeah, that's what they do at Chuck E. Cheese. You just put it in there, and they call it a bit because
the mouse bites you when you put it in.
Got bit by him. Dude, what if that was like the whole thing? That's how Chuck E. Cheese started, is that it's a pizza place with games, and there was a rat across the floor, and someone was like, yeah, that's our mascot. Like,
careful, he'll bite you.
Yeah, he'll bite you. Yeah,
but you got to give him a coin to get him to stop.
Tokens. Some bite tokens. That doesn't flow. Bitcoin. There we go. Are we talking about Bitcoin?
Yeah, we're talking
about cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's cryptic currency, if you will, you know? Things I learned last night.
Hey, if you like things I learned last night, make sure you support us on Patreon. Doing that, we'll make sure that you can watch episodes ad-free. You can ask us questions about the episode or just about like us because we're weird and it's fun. So support us online. That's TILLN.com/join. That's J-O lowercase L-N.
Ghost money. Is that why it's called that?
Ghost money?
Yeah, ghost money.
Ghost dollars.
Money for the ghosts.
Money for, yeah, if you meet a devil, this is how you can pay him off. Never would have had Halloween if somebody with Bitcoin was around.
We're like, here's Bitcoin. He's like, this is what I've come for. You're like, oh, okay.
Cryptocurrency.
Oh, is that what? That was Halloween. I get it. Okay. I see what you're doing. There's a whole claymation. A claymation? No,
yeah.
Stop motion?
Yeah, claymation's right. Stop motion's also right.
It was not a claymation. Claymation's a different thing. Are they made of clay? You know what? Actually, what they're made of is the human spirit. That's really what the whole story is really like.
Yeah,
what is Jack Skellington made of? You know, it's a stop motion picture. So you think there's a stop motion called cryptocurrency, which is too many syllables to fit. We go, this is Halloween, and you went cryptocurrency. Well, actually,
it's perfect.
I'm dumb. I guess. I'm sorry. That's why I don't have any Bitcoins. Aren't they like freaking $40,000?
Yeah, they give it to you when you're smart. They're like, hey, you're pretty smart. Here's a coin.
That's why I'm just waiting on some Bitcoins.
I got no Bitcoins.
There I am, just sitting over here like, man, one day a Bitcoin's going to fall in my lap. You know? I don't understand. I'm very excited for you to tell me about what it is because I see it all the time and I see people being like, basically, here's what I know about Bitcoin. Is I know people on Twitter are like, don't worry that it's crashing today. That's literally what it is. That's the only time I see Bitcoin is when the guys on Twitter are like, there's going to be falls, all right?
It's going to jump back up.
It's going to go back up. It's all pretend money. It has the exact same value as a RuneScape gold coin. If we all just agree that it has value.
If we just all have to say it.
Can you spend it? Can I go to the Toyota dealership and buy a truck with Bitcoin?
Probably not. Maybe the dealership could accept it. Anybody could accept Bitcoin, but most businesses don't.
I feel like we're talking about it like it's a $2 bill, and that's not what it is. I mean, they could take it. It's more of a collectible, but they could take it. Sure.
Sorry, we don't accept $2 bills here. But if you got any Bitcoin, we'll take that. No, okay. So here's the concept. Basically, it's an idea to decentralize the trust in currency. So we'll take it back to explain a little bit about where currency came from, and then we'll kind of jump into the evolution of where Bitcoin comes from and all cryptocurrency.
So is this what conspiracy theorists would call like a one world bank?
It actually very well could.
Cool.
Like
because Bitcoin would have the same value here that it does in like Australia.
Yes. Yeah. So so a little bit about currency. Basically, it came up because obviously, like, you probably know this or could assume it if you don't. But trade began where people were just like, hey, kind of like schoolyard. It's like, hey, I got some gushers. Will you give me? Or you got gushers. I don't
understand
those.
how trade works. Can you explain how?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
You got some gushers.
I've got gushers.
I have fruit snacks, and I say, hey, I'll give you my fruit snacks for some gushers, and you say,
and I go, that's a bad trade.
Yeah, and I say, okay, fine, I'll give you my granola bar also, and then you say, that's a little more interesting, but also still not worth it.
So the exchange rate for fruit gushers, is a granola bar, a pack of fruit snacks, and a fruit roll up.
Yeah. Well, I think
half a fruit roll up.
I think fruit roll up is almost one, but
fruit by the foot's better.
Fruit by the foot, yeah. Fruit roll up is probably almost a fair exchange.
Okay.
Fruit by the foot, I think gushers and fruit by the foot are probably even.
Okay.
But anyways, so basically, it was very subjective for a long time because there was nothing.
Okay, this is a serious question. Is the stuff inside the gushers the same stuff that's inside toaster strudels? And and I mean that. I'm not trying to be funny. I really. Okay. Is it the same liquid? Like, is this really
the same? Okay.
I feel like you're mocking me. We could even pause this. This is a real. I just want to know.
It's definitely not. We can look up the ingredients somewhere.
You and who?
Bree and I.
You're still with that girl? Oh my
gosh. So dumb. Okay, so
your wife.
Shut up. She bought toaster strudels for Christmas.
That's what she got for Christmas?
No, like for
dude,
Christmas.
It sucked, man. I bought her like a $400 vacuum. I got her a new TV, and I opened a box. Now, here's the thing: it's a box of toaster strudels that's been left underneath the tree for 2 weeks. So they're thawed.
So soggy, the box was like moist.
The paper's not coming off. The box just fell apart in my hands.
But dang, they were
and
good.
I went, are these toaster strudels or fruit gushers? I can't tell.
I went, get the toaster out.
Toast these soggy strudels.
Toast these strewed right now.
Don't call them strewed.
So she got them for like Christmas breakfast. But here's what happened. She ordered blueberry. And we ordered them on like Walmart grocery pickup. They didn't have blueberry, like, so they subbed them.
2-day free shipping, bro.
They subbed them for a 24-pack of strawberry, which I was like, oh, sweet, 24-pack, that's great. We got.
But she didn't want strawberry.
And she was like, no, I don't want strawberry. So she went back and she got blueberry. So we just had a ton of toaster strudels, and it kind of brought it back into my life. And two things happened from this. One, I was like, why did I ever stop eating this? Two,
I learned how to use a toaster.
No, two, I found out that Brie will squirt the whole packet on her strudel and then butter it across with a knife.
Yeah.
Is that what you do?
That's how you do it.
You're disgusting.
You do the whole thing.
You
spread out.
squiggle.
Drizzle.
You do some squiggles, you draw some designs, you make a smiley face or SpongeBob's head.
What is this, a country club plaza restaurant? Trying to make it all pretty. Just slather it on.
You gotta get that.
You gotta get out to math class, dude. You can't. You don't have time to. Let's just draw a little design over here. What do you?
No school starts with math.
Picasso. What is this? What are you trying to just draw out the Da Vinci Code on top of the freaking?
The Da Vinci Code.
Yeah. What is this? A Mona Strudel? A Strudel Lisa? Are you trying to do some art over here?
Strudel Lisa.
Yeah, it's abstract. It's Monet. All right. It's like. So what does this have to do with Bitcoin?
Literally nothing.
Oh, okay.
I was just
because we're talking about gushers, toaster strudels.
So the problem was with trade, where you're trading resources, there was no way. It was so subjective. Like to you,
that's what
your
my mom
gushers
always
might be
says.
more valuable.
My mom always claims she's libertarian. She's not. And she will always say, like, I just wish we can go back to paying doctors with chickens. And I'm just like,
how many chickens do you have?
I was gonna say, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, hey, is the exchange for like doing some stitches on my arm and also open heart surgery? How many chickens is open heart surgery?
Yeah, so you fix my heart, I'll give you like 15 chickens.
My heart hurts all day, but I'm gonna go farm some chickens. Yeah, those eggs just hatched. I'm saving up for heart surgery.
Bring some guests over. It's like, sorry, we've got like 300 chickens running around the house right now.
They're like, yeah, could you
Uncle Tommy needs a new liver.
Yeah. Yeah, that's 200 for the doctor and 100 for the donor, all right? Like,
no, so the problem was, like, it was subjective.
You can't be a minimalist and also trade chickens. That doesn't work.
Because for you, your gushers might be more valuable than my fruit roll-up is to me. And so I would say, hey, my fruit roll-up is worth a pack of gushers. And you'd say, no, it's not.
And you'd be like, well, this fruit roll-up's signed by Jason Dunn, the former lead singer of Hawk Nelson. And they'd be like,
and inventor of fruit roll-up.
And inventor of fruit roll-ups. This is signed by my dad, who invented fruit roll-ups and pillow pets.
Remember when fruit roll-ups had those tattoos?
Oh
could,
my gosh. Tongue tats? I love a good tongue tat. Remember when like college girls kept doing this little tattoo? Yeah, and you're like, you look like all of us in third grade with the fruit roll-ups. Idiot.
Oh gosh, we are.
I feel like they had Spy Kids tattoos, right? Anyway, mine's still on there.
And mine never came off. I don't think that's supposed to happen, but.
What if you had one of those instead of a teardrop, you just had like straight up like a Rocket Power character on your face?
Yeah, it was one of those for roll-up tongue tags that
Can
just never went away.
One kid from Rocket Power, Sam, right? The little blonde kid.
Yeah, I don't know.
Was that?
I know they went wooga 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 wooga, but I don't remember their names.
Anyway, what do you wooga wooga wooga? Anyway, so Bitcoin. This is why we don't have them.
Yeah,
they gave them to smart people. They're listening to this episode to figure out if we deserve them.
Yeah.
And they got 2 minutes in, turned it off, and thought they do not.
They don't deserve it. Anyway.
So the problem with trade is that there's no real set value. There's no agreed upon value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it started becoming, people started trading then precious metals. So silver, gold, bronze, things like that. And eventually that got converted into coins that would actually be worth the value of the gold or silver or whatever that was in that coin. Over time, it began to become cumbersome to carry all that because it's heavy, like to carry that metal. So those got
only
swapped.
Strong people could be rich.
Son, you better hit the bench press because you ain't gonna be rich with those scrawny arms.
I just can't save any more money.
I couldn't carry any more if I tried.
I couldn't carry the financial burden.
And so they swapped it. So then it was paper and then like cheap metal coins that were backed by that gold and silver.
Yeah. So like let's say a 1 pound certificate equaled 1 pound of gold.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And
if you're listening to this and you don't understand how money works, I'm glad that you're listening to this whole explanation of it.
Here's where things started to break down, though.
We don't mean to insult your intelligence. Tim does, though.
I do. On this paper and on your coins, there is like the identification number for it, and that's how you can trust that it's real. And so there's your central agency, which is always the government, that says, hey, this coin is essentially a receipt, or this dollar bill is a receipt for that bit of gold, and they are tied to each other.
Right, because the treasury is full of gold.
Yes. Well, we left the gold standard about 30 or 40 years ago, so now there's literally nothing backing our dollar bill.
It's literally all made up.
It's literally
that's what I've been like with these stimulus packages. I've just been like, they're literally like, they're making numbers up.
Yeah, exactly. So they literally just print the dollar bill, and we just have to trust them that it's okay. And so right now, all of all of our money is literally just trust, like blind trust in a centralized organization, which for us is the government and banks. And that's why bailouts like the 2008 crisis, that's why the bailout was even possible, because there was nothing that backed it up. So they literally could just say, oh, well, you need this much money. All right, we'll just print it and give it to you so that way you don't go under. Because there was nothing preventing them, since there was nothing backing the dollar bills. They could just make it all up. Well, Bitcoin was born after that 2008 crisis, when they realized, okay, well, this is why we're leading to all these problems, is because nobody can trust in our dollar bills anymore.
Yeah.
Our dollar is essentially
Losing
worthless.
value.
Yeah, it's losing value rapidly because we're constantly influxing the market with an insane amount of the stuff that we're printing every year. And that's why it's inflating so high, because it's worth so much less than it used to be. That's why your gushers, you used to be able to buy them for $1, but now it's like $4 for
I love that you're keeping up on gusher prices. I realized I was old the other day. I walked into the chiropractor, already old, right?
Yes.
And I walked in and I caught myself, but I almost asked the girl at the counter, do you know why gas is up 20 cents from yesterday? Like, did something happen in the news? That's like a real thing in my head. I drove past a gas station. I was like, that's up 20 cents since yesterday. Ooh. And then I walked in and my brain was like, ask her. And I was like, no, that's an old person. My brain was like, yeah, ask her.
Yeah, ask her. You need to know. That's funny, because that's like that commercial where it's like
the Progressive commercial. Yeah. Hilarious. I'm so mad that we didn't do that as a video.
So good.
Where the guy's standing over the plumber and he's like, oh yeah, you can. I tried to do that. He's like, he's a professional. You don't need to cheer him on.
We all see it. You
know who else reads books about submarines? Blue hair. He's got blue hair.
We all see it.
It's a brilliant campaign.
So good.
Really annoying.
So what Bitcoin does is it decentralizes that trust.
That was our progressive ad, by the way.
Yeah.
Progressive. See what progressive can... What's their slogan? Switch to progressive and save 15 minutes could save you 15...
Nope.
Percent.
Progressive price calculator.
Progressive. Screw the conservatives. Is that... that can't be it.
That seems a little too progressive.
That can't be right.
Now I'm curious. Anyways, so they I'm actually looking it up.
Progressive. We should know this, since they're official spot. I sound like I've sound like I've just...
Man, Progressive's website is
regressive. All right, never mind. Let's keep going.
All right. So what Bitcoin did is it decentralized that trust. So now instead of having to trust a bank or an organization,
you can just trust this app.
Pretty much. So a little more about that dollar. So if you have a bank account, you have your ledger of all your transactions in your bank account.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty
sure. And if you're Tim, you have the ledger of the transactions and an Excel sheet, and an Excel sheet about that
Excel sheet, and then a PDF that explains it all. Yeah.
You have a printed out PDF.
Yeah, I have a
and a checkbook. Tim is still out here with a checkbook.
You gotta write checks sometimes, okay?
Yeah.
I don't write checks at the grocery store, but like if I'm rent, like.
Listen, I know that there's like politicians out there who have like their causes and stuff. You know, some of them are championing healthcare, some of them are championing like rent control, some of them are championing like climate change. Okay. I've decided, everyone else has the other stuff. I'm gonna go in as a politician who cares about the real things. Make it a felony to write a check at a grocery store, all right? Let's make it punishable by death to merge onto a highway going 20 under the speed limit.
Punishable by death.
I believe in the death penalty. I don't, actually. I feel bad having that out there. Oh, anyway.
So, they, your...
Bitcoin,
you have your ledger,
yes,
which has all your transactions,
all your debts and credits. Yep.
Here's the thing. The bank also keeps a ledger that you don't have access to.
Yeah.
So that way, in case you are smart, like a really smart hacker who can come in there and tweak your numbers, they can compare it with their ledger and say, no, that's not accurate. So because since there's nothing to, since most of my money's digital now.
Photoshop my bank account.
Yeah, and so like if you knew how to like jump in there and hack the system and change your code on your ledger to say, it just add like a couple more zeros on your account would then run like you had the extra zeros. If there wasn't that backup ledger that can compare it and say, no, that's not accurate, and then it would update it. What Bitcoin does is they said, why should we trust the banks to manage that? Because there had been multiple situations, especially in 2008, it was really bad, where banks were taking their ledger and tweaking things to make it look like they were more profitable.
Yeah, like they were trying to trick investors.
Yeah, even after 2008, did you see the Wells Fargo scandal, the big Wells Fargo scandal with the credit card accounts? How far
will they go?
Well, so they had this big pressure from the executives to their lower level bankers in the company to open accounts.
So they were opening like false accounts.
They were opening credit card accounts, but people didn't know about them. And so it looked like they had all this money coming in, and then these people started getting charges for their credit card account that they never opened. And so it was this huge scandal because the bank had, all it takes is one bad player in the bank to just tweak with the numbers, and they could make out with all this money or just make up a bunch of money for the bank. And there's really nothing stopping them from doing it because their ledger is the end-all be-all ledger. We have to trust them.
Yeah.
What Bitcoin does...
Because the ledger is only there to protect the bank. It is not there to protect you.
No, not at all. And so what Bitcoin does is it takes that ledger and it decentralizes it, kind of like Wikipedia, where... I love Wikipedia, where instead of it being one person who manages the ledger, it is managed by everybody. And so it works under this principle.
What could go wrong?
It works under this principle called blockchain, and it's actually it sounds like it'd be really easy to mess this up, and it's actually really hard. And here's why: because it works under the system called blockchain. Essentially, what it is every time there's a transaction, it creates what's called a block, which you can think of it like a page on a ledger. So it creates that block, and that block details that transaction. And what happens is when the next transaction is created, it summarizes the previous block. So that's your chain. So it summarizes that and then details the next transaction, and so on and so forth. Well, where it gets complex is everybody who is your quote-unquote Bitcoin bankers is managing that blockchain. So they are watching those ledgers come through, and they're verifying those ledgers. So if there's ever a block
the next ledger should match up to the one before.
Yeah,
and
so
then the one after as well. Yeah.
So if somebody comes in and puts a block and tries to tweak something, then all the other ones would spot that and say, that's not accurate, throw it out and create a new block. And so it's really difficult because now it's this massive web of blocks with chains linking back to them. And if one thing changes, then all of those other ones are like, well, hey, we can verify that that's false, throw that out and create a new one.
Right.
So it's actually incredibly difficult.
It's like when you have Christmas lights, right? This is actually a good analogy, so stick with me. It's like when you have Christmas lights and one bulb is out, so the rest of the strand is out. That's a good analogy. I just came up with it. I was just sitting here and I just thought. I just thought. Wait, I know.
It just hit my brain.
Give me a Bitcoin. I'm a smart boy.
I took
I'm just trying to prove myself to the bit lords.
The bit lords. Is there a way we can physicalize computer code?
What did you just say?
Physicalize.
Physicalize?
I don't know if it's a word, but you understood what I meant.
Sure.
To where it's we can make people look like kings, like lords from the medieval world where they were covered in gold, but figure out a way to cover them in code and call them the bit lords. It's really funny.
What a fun bit to go on, you know? What a fun thing for someone to listen this far into the episode and give up at that bit.
And hear you talk about bit lords. It's funny, okay? Anyways. So
we call them landlords. We call it, bit lords made sense. Okay. Go ahead.
That's what I think of you. So the blockchain makes it to where
it's pretty hard to commit fraud in this situation
for anybody. There's not a bank that
because
can come
if one light is out,
lie.
the whole strand is out.
Yeah,
yeah. If you needed a visual, there you go.
Look at your Christmas lights. I took down my Christmas lights the other day, and
you own a house, so you guys hung up Christmas lights.
We hung up Christmas lights.
Yeah. Your address is.
So
if you want to Google Street View Tim's house, I did.
I was on my roof, and I was like, man, I got to get all these Christmas lights down. And I was like, I could just climb down the ladder and carry them down with me, but that sounds kind of tough. So I just tossed my strand of lights off the roof, and they hit and just shattered. And I was like, dang.
100%. Yeah, every new homeowner does it. Every new homeowner is like, I bet I could cut corners on this. And then all of a sudden, their fireplace collapses, you know? And it's like, oh, we learned the lesson the hard way.
Should have done that.
Guess I'll hire a professional.
Like my neighbors who painted their house in the middle of the night.
Yeah. The
tell you
demon
that?
neighbor?
No, the other one.
Yeah, when they just in the middle of the night were painting their house.
Yeah, his wife was
And
out
they're
there with her
colorblind,
cell
right?
phone light shining out the house, and he's sitting there painting that. I was like, what are you guys doing?
Wait, you know the sun comes up.
Yeah, when the sun came up, you could tell. You could tell they painted it in the middle of the night. It was bad.
Yeah, he was wearing a blindfold, too. It was just like, this is unnecessary, man.
They were playing a game, and they lost.
Yeah.
That was the bet. Painted
That's
house
pretty
at
funny,
night,
though.
Blindfolded.
Yeah, like if you're a homeowner, you can just do stuff like that, you know? Like, you're just like, dude, if you lose this, you got to go destroy our mailbox with a baseball bat. Like Kirk Cameron style. Kirk Cameron in Fireproof. Like, you got to hit that mailbox like it's got naked women on it, and you're like trying to save your marriage.
Gosh,
It's a Fireproof joke.
Thanks for the explanation.
So there's a web of things. It's kind of like, honestly, it's kind of like... Did you ever see Courageous?
No, I haven't actually.
It's the same people who made Face and the
Yeah, I know
Giants
what
and
it is.
Fireproof, and they made Courageous.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where he glues a salt and pepper shaker together, and he goes, "You can't." So it's an analogy for divorce. You can't break them apart without fully breaking both of them because they're super glued together. It's really an inconvenient for anyone who's trying to use them, who just wants salt and no
Just wants
pepper.
salt or just wants pepper.
Yeah, but you can't break it because then they'll both break.
Yeah.
You know, they
They'll
can't just
shatter.
leave a marriage
You got
on.
shards
Yeah,
of-
it's the same is true for the blockchain.
Blockchain. Yeah.
Block Lord.
Yeah. Did he actually break them in the movie?
No.
Oh.
Because they didn't get divorced.
I just
that was the whole
picture,
point.
I just pictured him pulling it apart, and it's like
I
it
just-
shatters. He's got like broken glass in his hand and salt in the wound. And
Oh no, they
pepper
were
in
like
the
cheap
wounds.
diner plastic ones.
Oh.
Like, you know, like the dark
Gosh,
gray and the
no.
tan one.
Oh,
You know exactly
yeah,
what I'm talking
yeah,
about when I
yeah,
said
yeah,
that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Glued them together.
Yikes. Well, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
Anyways, so blockchain it's pretty secure, and it makes it to where theoretically nobody could mess it up.
Yeah.
It is there has been some people who have presented some theoretical ways to hack it, but it's never been successfully done. And with AI, you can maybe
How much was Bitcoin when it started?
like how much
Are
was
we
it
going to
worth?
get there? The worth of it?
How much was it worth?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we
We're gonna get
can jump to that right now. So it started in 2008 as a response to the crisis. It was started by the
So
guy
it's,
named
it's held accountable by the chain.
yes.
It's pretty hard to break.
Mm-hmm.
So then, because people have been trying, I literally see like printed yard signs, like, you know, like
Yeah.
campaign that
Yeah.
say buy Bitcoin.
Yep. So
But now it's unattainable. It's too much for you and I. Well, for me, I don't know how poor you are.
Sorta. There's a couple ways. I don't know how poor you are.
Just kidding. I know how poor you are.
There's a
We can't
couple
afford it.
there's a couple ways you can get it.
'Cause now you can get a fraction of one, right? Now you can get like
Yeah, they've got it like almost like coins where it's
Yeah.
like cutting them. So in 2008, Satoshi Nakamoto released this like white paper about what he called Bitcoin. That was like his solution to the housing crisis. And he's like, here's how we could avoid this ever happening again.
Yeah.
Explain the blockchain concept. He actually never said blockchain. I think the closest he said was like chain of blocks. In that he ended up developing Bitcoin after that, after releasing that paper. The first person to make a transaction on it was a guy in 2010.
so 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. And all he did was he pointed. His name was Laszlo Hanyecz. Anyway, and his.
You're telling me that you can pronounce Satoshi?
Okay, pronounce this. Okay.
Okay.
HANYECZ. The Z threw me off.
Hanex.
No, this is.
If I was just confident
Hanex.
enough, we were going with it.
Hanyecz. I don't know. But anyways, so Laszlo posts online. He's like, hey, I will buy 2 pizzas from someone for 10,000 Bitcoin. And someone was like, sure. And so they went and they bought a couple Papa John pizzas and sent them to his house.
That person?
And he sent them
Elon Musk. Elon Musk was door dashing with Bitcoin before all of those words were real.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, if you watch this episode and you see us drinking out of these mugs and you're like, I want to drink out of those mugs while I watch this episode, great news. You can purchase these at TILLN.com/merch. We've got these mugs, some shirts. We're going to put new designs out pretty often, so please keep up with that. And all that money goes to help support this podcast and make it better.
Make it better, yeah. Also, if you subscribe on Patreon, you can find out what we put in our mugs every week.
Yeah, it's just
Air.
We're fake drinking. Okay, so he pays him 10,000 Bitcoins to deliver pizzas. And then the guy just goes home and is like, great, I got 10,000 Bitcoins.
Yes.
Now that guy's a millionaire if he kept those, right?
Yeah. He would be rolling in it because, let me see.
And then he was like, what can I buy with 10,000 Bitcoin?
So in 2020...
so wait, how did the guy, Laszlo, order the pizzas?
Yes, Laszlo.
How did he get the 10,000 Bitcoin?
So there is an online transaction system called I think they call it a Bitcoin wallet or like a digital wallet or something like that. I can't remember exactly what they call it. But it's just like Venmo or PayPal. Like you just send it through this system.
I understand how it's sent. How did he get 10,000 of them?
Oh, we'll talk about it. So he got it through Bitcoin mining, which we can talk about in a second.
Okay.
And so in November of 2020, Bitcoin hit its all-time high of each individual Bitcoin being worth US dollars $19,860 for an individual Bitcoin. So that guy who bought 10,000, who sent 10,000 for those pizzas, if he held on to that, he's rolling in the dough right now, like rolling in the dough.
Yeah. He delivered some dough, and now he's rolling. In the dough. They really messed up on not calling this Digimoney, by the way.
Digimoney. Digital currency. Digimoney are the champions. Did I tell you about the time my dad threw in all my Digimon cards?
Yes.
Gosh.
Remember that time that you text me a month ago and we're like, I just realized that our whole podcast is us telling us the same 7 stories over and over.
I've been listening back through it because it goes back to my awful memory, man. I've been listening back through it and I've been like, oh my gosh, like we have told this story 6 times on this show.
I let you do it a lot.
And people are just like, oh yeah, there's a story again.
Yeah. People are like, have I listened to this episode before?
I've listened to this. I swear I've heard this. Have we said that story on here? The Digimon story?
We've actually talked about the story where you text me and said that we have the same stories over and over. We've had this conversation 7 times.
All right, whatever. Digimon is cool.
Tim, we've never released an episode. This has all been built up for our grand premiere.
Okay, so anyways, Bitcoin now is worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
The way it was originally.
Yeah, tell me how that guy ended up with 10,000 of them.
Yeah, so it started, and you still can do this. It's called Bitcoin mining. And so it's
hard labor, but
you sit on a computer, you just hit it with a pickaxe for a long time until Bitcoin comes out.
Yeah, it's in Second Life.
So you can still do this today. It's a lot harder today than it was in the early days. But essentially, if you're a Bitcoin miner, you're a Bitcoin banker. And since this banking system, the people who manage that blockchain ledger, is a volunteer basis, Nakamoto created this reward system to get people to want to manage that ledger. And so the way it works is there is, for every block in the blockchain when it's created, there is a new random math equation that comes with that. And that math equation, if you can solve it, then you win the reward to match that ledger. So you say, okay, I solved that equation.
So they really do give Bitcoins to smart people. That wasn't a joke.
Sort of. Here's the thing.
So what you're saying is you do the ledger, right? And at the bottom of the ledger, it says, here's a little problem. And it goes 2x minus 3/4 y equals A, and you got to solve for all of them. If you can do that.
No, it's more like at the bottom it says, Jaron has a pack of Gushers and Tim has a fruit roll up and 2 granola bars. How much are the granola
Jaron
bars?
is buying 106 watermelons.
What is it for? Why does he need this many watermelons?
That's the real question.
That's the question you have to figure
and you have
out.
to show your work or you don't get the Bitcoin.
Here's the thing. So the way it works is the first person to get that number right to the equation. They're incredibly complex equations. They're the winner of that ledger, and they get to verify that blockchain.
Okay.
And what they do is they verify that, and then they write the next block in the ledger. And then everybody then competes to solve the equation on that. The equations are so complex, no one could ever sit down and answer them quickly enough to be the winner. So computers are solving these equations for them.
Oh, got it.
In the early days, people were just using their own personal computers to solve these equations. But Nakamoto, he had a plan. He saw that this was going to be something people were going to want to do over time. And so he wanted there to be a steady flow of a new Bitcoin hitting the market about every 10 minutes is what he wanted there to be, because he wanted to help fight inflation. And so he's the way he thought about it is he's like, this really is like mining. Like there's a gold mine and people are digging, bringing the gold out. And it's good to have more coming in, but you don't want it to blow up too fast. And that's bad.
Because that devalues it.
Yeah, so he wanted to keep it steady so that way it could continue to grow the market, but he didn't want it to go too fast. And so he set it up to where the system automatically understands how many people are mining at once and trying to solve the equation.
Yeah.
And if there's not a lot of people, the equations are fairly simple. So there's a higher chance of them being able to solve it and get in.
Yeah.
But if there's
2
a lot,
+ 2.
if there's a lot, then the equations get progressively harder. So the more miners are in there, the harder it is to extract that or to mine that data. So today there's a lot of miners, and as more and more miners have come in, these equations have gotten more and more complicated.
Yeah.
So general
what happens when they turn 21?
I hate that joke so much. I hate it so much.
You know how much we love miners around here. Did you see which episode were we talking about miners before? But Caleb, our graphics guy, put on my shirt, he made it say, I love miners.
I remember that.
It's ER. It's ER, guys. It's ER.
Miners. Miners, people who mine things.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's so dumb.
I love Bitcoin miners. ERs. I'm not out here being like, yo, 17-year-olds with Bitcoin.
So it got so hard.
Let's be pals.
It got so hard to solve those equations.
Yeah. That you had to start putting it into a computer program.
Yeah, you had to start building.
Because they're computer generated.
Better. Yeah, so it's computer generated. And before people it was just your CPU. So I could log on with my MacBook and start mining it. But now it's so complicated. My CPU would like evaporate. It would like burn up trying to solve that because it's so complicated. So in about 2013, people started using their GPUs, which are like your graphics cards in the computers. They're like those really big. They're more powerful, and they have a much higher processing power. So people started running through expensive GPUs. So you needed a much stronger computer, and then people were like tethering GPUs together to just get more power. Well, now people have it's jumped again. People are using what's called ASIC chips, which are like they've got the processing power of dozens, if not hundreds or thousands of GPUs. Jeez. So now they can solve these complex equations at insane rates, where they're looking at like the data they're equating is terabytes or even petabytes, which is 1,000 terabytes a second. Like they're insane computers, and so they take a ton of power to power these computers.
Yeah.
And then especially
your electric bill is half a Bitcoin.
Well, that's the thing that people are trying to figure out right now, because you not only do you have to power this, which takes a lot of energy consumption, but you have to keep it cool, because doing that much power makes it really, really hot, which could melt.
Which has led to 3 different deaths because these nerds are running around their gigantic computers just and they pass out and they overheat because they couldn't.
It's so hot in there. Yeah, there's actually one company. They're called Bitza. and they cook pizzas on their Bitcoin mining machines. It's their oven. It comes full circle. It's the history.
It's because he delivered the
two pizzas.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good, huh? I like that one.
Yeah. You can order garlic bits.
But here's the thing. If you solve that
equation,
Right.
if you're the one who wins and you solve that equation, you get 2 rewards. Your reward is a set number of Bitcoin, and that
Multiple
number,
Bitcoins?
yeah, that number has
So it could
changed
be
over
like
time.
$40,000.
Yeah. So it's
So it would
starting.
be worth it to do these computers. But how long could it take to solve them? Like a month?
No, seconds. It's seconds every time. They're getting solved in seconds.
So they're getting like 40 grand.
Not really, because here's the thing. You have to be the first person to solve it to win it. And there's so many miners, statistically, you're not going to get it every second. Statistically, you're probably not even going to get it.
Well, so I need a separate
every day.
computer to tell me what the statistic odds are to win this.
Not necessarily.
Are the odds better of winning the lottery?
No.
Okay.
Well, yeah, no. I want to make sure I said that right. You have, if you're running the blockchain, like you're mining Bitcoin,
Yes.
you have a better chance of actually winning that equation than winning the lottery.
Okay.
But the amount of Bitcoin you get for solving this has increasingly gone down. And Nakamoto thought this through, and he planned out through like 2074 the increments that this is dropping.
Oh, wow.
Or 2174, sorry. The increments that this is dropping every time, every few years, it drops how many Bitcoin is delivered for whenever you do a successful mine. You also get a percentage of the transaction in that ledger that you solved. So
Okay.
say we were the ones who, you did the mine that resolved the ledger for that 10,000 Bitcoin pizza,
Yeah.
then you would get a fraction of that 10,000 Bitcoin. And at that time, I think it was like 30 Bitcoin is what you got for mining that, something like that. Now it's only 1 that you get for mining it, but they're worth so much money. And if you can do this and maintain this system and get it to where you are getting successful mines every few days, then you can really be pulling in a lot of money.
Yeah. You can be pulling in like 40 grand a week if you get 2 of them.
Yeah, if you can pull it off. The question is, can you pull it off? Because there are people who have these massive warehouses now of all these computers that are just punching at this system, trying to guess this equation and get it right. And so it costs a lot of money now to be able to successfully mine. Like you and I, we probably couldn't set up a computer in our house and win one of these mining things because 1, it would cost so much power, and 2, we just don't have the massive operation. They look like server warehouses, like. Have you ever seen those?
Yeah. I mean, like, huge.
Yeah, so it's starting to get to the point where
That has to be that's an industry in itself.
yes,
is Bitcoin miners.
yes, and so
And then again, it's one of those embarrassing things. We talked about how the person who invented tech decks, was a middle class inventor for a while there. You've got to tell people you're a Bitcoin miner,
yeah, but I mean they're probably very.
You go out for drinks, you're out at the bar, you're trying to impress some girl, right? You're like, yeah, I mean, like I'm a Bitcoin miner, and she's like, oh, you're a miner? I'm sorry, I can't talk to you, and like.
Sorry,
it affects the dating game for sure.
So,
but you've also got to run around your warehouse blowing on all the machines the whole day. So, yeah.
you've got very powerful lungs.
There was a guy who did school assemblies for a while who came to my school who, how the tough man competitions where they flip cars over?
Yeah.
His is the strongest lungs. And it was an anti-smoking speech.
Oh, no.
But he could blow up animal balloons.
Oh, my gosh.
With his lungs, which is honestly pretty impressive. Have you ever tried it?
I don't know if I can tell this story on our podcast, so I'm going to tell it, and we might have to cut it out. But there was a guy who did a school assembly at my school, my Christian high school.
Okay, well, at least let us change it. Never mind. Yes, go ahead.
No,
keep it on this and change it when it's over, I guess.
There was a guy.
Alex is like, no, I know how to edit stuff out. We do this.
So he came to my Christian high school.
Yeah.
And it was like an abstinence assembly that he did. The kicker was he had a buddy who came with him, and halfway through, when he was talking about it, he was like, I can't remember what his point was, but it was something about like protection or I don't know what it was. but the auditorium doors flung open, and a dude in a sperm mascot costume, like realistic sperm mascot costume, started running down the aisles.
When you say realistic sperm costume,
like think about like in your science textbook when it shows you a picture of a sperm,
like the gigantic
little head and then the
tail.
tail that went really far, and he just started running down the aisles, and he was like, "I'm Speedy the sperm," and he had like a little logo on his chest, and that was like how he illustrated that point that sperm's really fast and you need to stop it.
Did he tackle
They
him?
didn't get asked to come back.
It would have been more impressive.
They sent an email out to all the parents that day. And we're like, hey, we're sorry. We didn't know.
It would have been more impressive if he just ran through the door. And then like 10 minutes later, the guy was like, now we've got this giant rubber screen we're going to put in front of the door. And then the guy came, and then he just runs and bumps into it. And they're like, but the safest way is to never open that door.
Never open the door. Or let him go in a different room.
Speedy the sperm.
Yeah,
and you were like, we
Speedy
probably
the
can't
sperm.
put that in our podcast.
Yeah, but it was good enough for my Christian high school.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
literally sent an email out to all the parents. They're like, "Hey, we didn't know this was gonna happen.
Yeah.
We thought it was gonna be something different. We're
You didn't
really
see
sorry."
them bringing in this costume. You didn't see them and then go, maybe they shouldn't do that part.
Afterwards, our principal like walked up and was like, I don't remember the guy's name. He's like, "Thanks, Todd. We'll talk about this." It was such a mess.
That's all right. Our sex ed guy, we did it in science class for
Yeah,
whatever reason.
yeah.
Our sex ed guy wrote sex on the board. And
Yeah.
then when he was just this short, bald guy.
Yeah.
And he would just be like, sex! We're talking about it today.
Hey man, what are you wearing?
This is a shirt that has the TILLN set on it. It's a really fun way to support the podcast and also tell your friends about it.
Wow, yeah, it looks just like this.
I hand drew it, and it's my favorite shirt.
I didn't know you were an artist.
And it fits really well. This
A good fit.
pre-shrunk.
Good pre-shrunk.
Works well.
I love it.
Yeah, TILLN.com/merch.
Anyways, so if you are one of these blockchain miners, you run.
have to wear a costume.
You have an opportunity to bring in a ton of cash off of it. But
And it would have
now,
worked before, but now it's just not.
Now it's a massive investment.
Yes.
Before, when there wasn't a lot of people doing it,
You've got to invest almost millions of dollars.
if you got into this in 2011 when it first started, or 2010 when it first started,
you could have been doing it on like your personal computer, and there was such little competition, and the reward was so much higher. I think it was like 30, 40 blockchain or Bitcoin per chain that you solved. Your chances of getting that were so high, and if you sat on that until now, it's worth so much money.
Yeah.
But between 2014 and 2015, the average number of attempts that you had to make at solving one of these codes to actually be the one who solved it and earned the Bitcoin from that mine was increased in that 1 year span from 16.4 quintillion to 200.5 quintillion. So you had to attempt it that many times before you had a shot at earning it. So
Wow.
it got to the point where these computers are doing so much, and it happens in a matter of seconds. Every second, it's going through, and so you're having to do so many of these calculations that these computers have to be just absolute monster machines. And so recently there are these.
I like to think that there is one guy in a cabin somewhere who is just handwriting out these things and is just
It's like
turning it in. And he's like getting Bitcoins. He's like beating the computer. He's just like, boom. Yes. Done.
Boom. Easy.
It's crazy how fast my Wi-Fi is out here. He's just living in the cabin that the Unabomber lived in. It's just like crazy.
My Wi-Fi's too good. It's nuts.
He's just thinking about the Wi-Fi speeds.
He's like,
If it was faster, I'd make more.
He's like on the line with AT&T. He's like, yeah, I'm trying to mine Bitcoin. I could get a lot more.
He's got two devices open and just like a pianist, just.
He's got like all these iPhones and they're like keys, and he's like.
So Bobby
solving
Fischer's
Bitcoin.
up to these days, you know.
So, because it's getting so complicated to
Yeah.
successfully mine, there are these new things called mining pools, where organizations are putting together this big group, and you can kind of almost think of it like a mutual fund.
And they'll split the profit.
Yeah, essentially. So every time it goes through, everybody splits the profit, but you have to buy into it. So you get your own personal machine, and you're a part of the pool.
So it's basically like, instead of like, if you've got 100 machines doing it, you've got your 100. You could join the pool of 10 other people who have 100. You know. And now we've got, what is that? Is it 10,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
But the way they do it is interesting because it's not the way they do it is not okay, you're in the pool and so we just split it every percentage, like you get X percent of all of this, right? What they do is you get a percentage of how much work you put towards solving that block. So say you and I were both in this same pool. You had a server.
And we never got it.
Yeah. Well, we'll say you had a server. I had 2 servers. So I was able to put a little bit more work. I would get a bigger cut whenever we solved it. Then you would solve it. Yeah. And so, but it works where everybody in that pool, whenever something gets solved, gets paid because you're all working on the same blocks. So everybody gets paid every time something gets solved if someone in that pool solves it. And so if you have a big enough pool that you're in, you could be getting a small chunk of a Bitcoin every time one of these. So you now with this.
You have like a 0.17 Bitcoin.
But you have that's still worth so much money.
What is 0.17 of?
It's like 19,000 is what it is now. So
Right.
0.17. Let me do the math real quick.
Would be like $2,000. Almost $4,000. 3,600.
$300.
$300? I did the math way wrong. I did.
Yeah, you were close.
0.17.
You did.
I did 1.7.
Or wait, hold on.
I did.
Wait,
No. 0.17.
I did 0.017.
No. I did it.
Wait.
Did you do 0.017?
Wait, hold on. 0.17
You have a
or
calculator.
1.7. What are we doing?
0.17. 19,000 times 0.17.
Okay, yeah, that I did a 0.017. But
So yeah, I was right.
But 0.17 would be 17%,
Yes.
not 0.17%.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you're saying I said 0.17 Bitcoins, which would be 17% of a Bitcoin. Okay, never mind.
Anyways,
Is that how little the fraction they're getting? Is like 0.0.
it just depends. It varies every time because if it's weighted on how much you put towards it, so you could be getting more if you.
I was
more
thinking
server
17
power.
cents on the dollar.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying.
That's what I was. 17%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I did it right. I deserve the Bitcoin. I solved that equation.
but you also get
a chunk of that ledger. And so if you were working with something where somebody spent 200,000 Bitcoin and you get that percentage of that ledger, every time the percentage is slightly different, but if you get a percentage of that ledger,
You
that's
can be making a couple $100.
you can be
If someone in your pool got it.
yeah.
And that's the way you want to go into. You want to have one machine go into a pool with someone who has a warehouse.
Yeah, essentially. And so it really is a numbers game. Like you have to
Well,
be
the
able.
problem is if my machine gets it, they still get a huge chunk.
They get
of
a big
Bitcoin.
chunk. They get a big chunk. Yeah. And so
right now it's a numbers game. Like you have to be able to have a really strong machine. You have to invest in a really expensive machine, and then you have to invest the electricity cost to keep it running. But if you can manage it for long enough, you're going to get some Bitcoin out of it. And right now, Bitcoin is on this trajectory where it's just going up. It dips like any currency, but it's really just going up. And the value in it, right now, for the most part, you can't walk into your local quesadilla shop and buy a quesadilla with Bitcoin. Some places do. Some places have like a little scanner for it. They have physical Bitcoin wallets. They all look different. There's like notes where it's like a card and it's got like a code on it. You scan that code and it runs.
They have like debit cards where you scan it like a debit card and it'll run. They even have like literal like gold coins where like you like put the gold coin on something and it scans the number. So it's like, but it's all basically a credit card. Like it just scans the number and gives you that information. They have that exists, but it's still so in terms of actual transactions, like it's not widely accepted as a currency.
Right.
But it is widely accepted its value. So it's kind of like your uncle who bought a bunch of gold. I don't know. I just assumed you probably had an uncle who was like, "Oh, buy gold."
Well, saw those commercials for silver.
Yeah.
Bought a lot of silver.
But it's a true thing because here's the issue we're at right now. Now that we're off the gold standard, if something happens to the U.S. or just to your bank and they go under, we talked about it in the billionaires episode. They're only federally insured up to $250,000. If you had more than $250,000, you're just out that money now.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do with it. Same thing with the U.S. If all your money is stored in cash and there's no value backing that, if the U.S. goes under, your money's just gone. It just doesn't exist anymore. And there's no reason why Russia or China or any other country in the world needs to honor it anymore if this government doesn't exist anymore. And so that's another reason why we were talking about the billionaires episode. That's why so many of them pour all their money into assets, because that will still be valuable.
Because I'll still have planes.
Yeah, and people and you could still go to other nations and they could say, okay, this is worth this much in our currency, and you still have a buying power. Bitcoin's the same concept. It's just like buying gold or assets or anything else, where it's not like dollar bills, where if something happens to the organization that you put your trust in for it, it's gone. Like this won't go away because it's got that blockchain, and the trust it's so easy to trust in it because the system is bordering on flawless. There are possibilities, but it borders on being flawless. So people are buying in it as more of an investment to watch it grow and then maybe sell out at one point.
Right. That's what I see most of it as an investment. Not really. I'm planning for our government to fall, and I want to have currency. That's not what I see a lot of people using it for.
Yeah. It's more of an investment, and so.
Now there are other cryptocurrencies. They saw was Bitcoin the first one?
Bitcoin was the first one, and a lot of other ones have come out since then. That all operate under similar systems. Almost all of them are blockchain. But what's really interesting about this is this blockchain concept has gone into more than just the cryptocurrency. So it started in cryptocurrency, but it's gone outside of cryptocurrency to all sorts of different applications because
there's a good accountability way.
Yeah, our society is built on trust, and if you the way it is right now is. Trust is centralized. There's a large organization, whatever that is, in whatever industry it is, that you have to put your trust in and say, you're saying
That's institutional trust, which has been compromised over the last several decades, where there's always been conspiracy theories, but institutions for a long time have held that power and that trust. But have increasingly lost that trust of the public.
Yes.
So, and not just government. I'm saying like the institution of the church has lost trust. The institution of, of schools, of like universities. Of like, I have a degree from this place and therefore I am educated. Like even that's lost public trust. Like those kind of things. Yeah. That's an interesting, I'm very interested in the power dynamic of that. But.
So it really, in one of the first long-term solutions towards decentralizing power is blockchain, because it makes it to where now everybody has access to that information. It's still secure because you can't like in cryptocurrency, you can see every transaction.
It's all public.
Anybody can peek into the ledger and see what transactions are going. Now that doesn't mean I can
transparency is the way toward trust for sure.
But peeking in that ledger doesn't mean I can see that you sent me $10,000 for a pizza.
It's kind of like when you can go on Venmo and see what your friends are sending.
Yeah. Pretty accurate, actually. but to a T, like it wouldn't have names tied to it. We wouldn't know who did what. We would just know what happened, and there would be like.
And it's a system that if someone throws it off their own roof and breaks some of the lights,
it's still good.
That was a callback.
But it's being used in like contracts. There's companies that are writing contracts that are blockchain contracts. So now, because right now,
theoretically, if I'm doing a service for you and I write a contract, you sign it, I could go change that and just forge your signature, because we all know right now nobody's reading a full contract. Be like, well, here's it.
Oh,
It's
I
in the
know
contract
people aren't
that
reading contracts. I show up to gigs all the time, and I'm like, you did not read anything.
But one of the most, it's in video games, energy trading, cryptocurrency, like healthcare, web domain names, like it's all over the place. One of the most interesting things to me, though, is the supply chain, because they're implementing this to the supply chain for any resource.
Yeah.
So, for example, food. If Walmart uses the blockchain system to keep track of their supply chain, then what happens is right now you still have that trust. You're trusting that the farmers who made this lettuce followed all the good procedures and did what they told you they did, and you're trusting that the packers did it, you're trusting that the shippers did it, you're trusting that Walmart did what they said they were going to do all along the line. You just have to trust their word for it. But if they use a blockchain system, then anybody can anywhere along that system look and see what everybody did, and that ledger's updated and it's up to date. So if there is...
So do you think that will bring inflation down with more transparency in the supply chain, or do you think that will,
I don't know much.
in a way, become a centralized power? Because how do you hold someone accountable then? So look, what are the if there's no institutional power, right? If there's no place to put the trust there, what then is the consequence for someone who is out of line?
It becomes essentially impossible to break that trust. You could probably do other things, but breaking trust in that. So like if I was saying I'm a green farmer who uses no pesticides, and I'm trying to sell that to Walmart, but then I go use pesticides, everybody would look at the blockchain and say, well, you're lying. You use pesticides. And then they would just stop buying my product. So it makes it to where...
Because they would see what you bought?
Yeah, they could look at the blockchain and watch the supply chain. Yeah, there's no privacy in that. It's not... It makes it to where you have to be transparent and show that what you're saying you're doing, you're actually doing. Sure. Yeah.
Which you should be anyway.
Yeah, but right now it's really...
So basically it would make it so that if you are using whatever products you are using to grow your food, you would have to show receipts to the people you sell to.
Yeah, and it would go all the way down the chain. So like literally from the very beginning of everybody in this chain of who got you.
So we would be able to see who Walmart is buying from.
Yep. And you could see who they're buying from and who their shippers are and who their packers are and who their farmers are. And then those farms, you can see where they're getting their feed and where they're getting their seeds and their water supply. Like you can see all of it, all the way down to the very minuscule details. So the application, I don't know what it would do financially. I haven't thought much about it, but the interesting application is, say there's an E. coli outbreak. Right now,
you could trace it to
you
where
have
it goes.
to take all the iceberg lettuce off the shelves. But if you could do that, you could trace it right back to that one thing and just say, okay, anything that came from that we're throwing out, but everything else is still fine. And so you can do that with and in terms of supply chain, the applications are really endless in that, because you can then spot if there's some sort of issue that comes up, you can trace it right back to the source every time and with certainty. And it also makes it incredibly difficult for things like money laundering or
can't really hide the
trafficking, anything like that. Like right now, the reason that works is because people can get on those ledgers or documents and forge it and twist it and shake it. But if it's in a blockchain, it's transparent. You can't hide that stuff. And so it really could help limit a lot of these organized crime rings, because they couldn't lie about things anymore. You have to tell the truth in a blockchain world. Granted,
you also to be very organized.
Yeah. So I mean, it's an interesting idea, and it really
is that the free market.
I don't know.
Because then in a blockchain, if Walmart is selling their lettuce for this much, but I see that they got it from the distributor for this much, that doesn't leave a lot of room for supply-demand prices.
How so? What do you mean?
I mean, I just think that people would be able to see, like, oh, you're charging 3 times what you bought this for.
Yeah. So you couldn't price gouge people, because people would be able to check the ledger and say, well, I'm not going to pay
that
much.
You still could price gouge people, though, because the way that it's set up is that where else are they going to get the grocery from?
Well, I mean, true.
It's interesting. I see what you're saying. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to poke holes in it. Well, kind of I am, but I'm saying. Like,
I mean, I think that's fair.
the podcast is not the place to do that. We can have those conversations later.
But yeah, so
Interesting.
yeah, so it's
So, do you think there's a world where we all have Bitcoin in the future?
I think there's a potential for it. I'm very interested. I haven't been able to find much about Nakamoto's plan for 2174 because he says at 2174 the resource dries up. So if you're mining, you can't get any more out of it. And so he wanted to do that because anything valuable isn't infinite.
Right.
And so he wanted it to dry up. And so what I'm curious about is what reason does anybody have?
Like 170 or 160 years?
Yeah, to last 160 years at a new one coming in about every 10 minutes is the flow he wanted to have. And so I don't know.
Eventually there's just a certain number of Bitcoin.
There's just, that amount of Bitcoin and that's it. And I'm curious what would happen then. And I'm also curious, like, because what
we'll be
reason?
alive then.
Like, why? Why would
I'll be 180 years old.
If I was a Bitcoin miner, why would I want to do that anymore? Like, it costs you a lot to manage that mining. And if you have the reward to earn Bitcoin, then it's worth it. But if it's just a percentage of that ledger, is it still worth it? I don't know. And what does it do to the value? I don't know. But I think there's potential for it. I think it could be great. But I do think it'd be tough to get a lot of people to buy onto it. I think the harder part of it would be governments will likely probably try to block it because it takes the power away from the government.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about the blockchain thing as well, is that institutions are already clawing for power.
And so I think trying to create a currency that takes the power away from governments and big banks, it exists now and people are investing in it, but people can't use it to buy things. It's not like, I mean, they can, but it's very rare that people will accept it. So does it become a new actual currency or does it stay like an investment portfolio piece? I don't know. I think it's still too early to say because there's just not enough people who have bought into it.
Sure.
But man, if you bought into it in 2010, I mean, you can be rolling in it now.
Well, I'm going to post on Facebook tonight and say, how many chickens would it take for someone to deliver 2 Papa John's pizzas? If you deliver me 2 Papa John's pizzas, I will give you 10,000 chickens.
A lot of these 10,000 chickens for 10.
I got so many chickens. What if you came home? What if you came home? What if you and your wife, Bree, Bree? So
yeah, thanks for the
remember
reminder.
who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I remember.
What if you guys had been saving up your chickens, right? You've been saving chickens.
Our nest egg, if you will.
Yeah. You've been saving chickens for your surgery, right?
Yep.
You come home, half of them are gone. It's so hard with a blockchain system like a chicken coop. With a
chicken
coop,
chain.
with a
chain.
coop chain system, it's very hard to hide transactions from your spouse.
I know who you gave our 5,000 chickens to.
Yeah, I can see them in the neighbor's yard.
Why did you give Dan 5,000 chickens?
Well, you broke our Christmas lights last year, so I had him take them down, and he wanted 5,000 chickens. And the free market sets the price, Tim. Bree's never going to listen to this, so I don't care if my impersonation is bad. But that one was pretty good. So,
yep, that's pretty accurate. That's the world.
Yep, that's my wife.
you nailed it. There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a brief overview of Bitcoin and blockchain.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that we could have. There was a joke earlier about paying the devil with rat coins from Chuck E. Cheese. Is that what the joke was?
I think so.
Because was the devil in Chuck E. Cheese?
The devil loves Chuck E. Cheese. I can tell you that for sure. I have a degree in biblical studies, and that was day one.
I'll tell you that. That's Satan's playground right there. Oh, a Chuck E. Cheese?
Yeah, you take your tickets, and they only let you go from the bottom shelf. That's a devil move right there. I've 9,000 tickets. Yeah, it's bottom shelf.
Yeah, that's about inflation. Yeah, well, I mean, I wish that we would have had some Bitcoin so we wouldn't have had to fiddle off the devil. I don't know. Hey, thanks so much for watching Things I Learned Last Night. If you like that, there are more episodes you can watch, or you can watch some highlights, but please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an episode in the future.